Hello. I made sure that I am not on mute this time. Hey, how's everybody doing? Welcome back to the Level Up Single Mom channel. I'm your host, Biden and Key. Also, my regular name is Kiana Footman. Welcome back to Woman Chat Wednesday here at Level Up Single Mom. That's where we discuss current events and just different subjects from the perspective of how it affects single mothers. And this week we are talking about relationships when it comes to single motherhood and just how to kind of navigate those relationships. Hey, everybody, let me know if you can hear me or if you can't hear me so that I know what to do. Um, yeah, I'm going to. Yeah, and also let me know if you hear. I mean, there's really nothing I can do about it because I have the air on and I have a fan on too because I get hot. And so let me know if you can't hear me, if you need me to speak up or anything like that. Just want to make sure you guys are comfortable and everything is everything. So I'm going to go ahead and play the intro and then we'll get started. Hey everybody, thank you so much, Tiff, Tori. How are you today? So like I said, we are talking about relationships today. Hey Themis, happy to see you. Welcome. Thank you for coming. So Lantonette, hi everybody, come on in. So today I'm going to be talking about relationships. So if you saw the thumbnail, you saw the Erica, hi, welcome. If you saw the thumbnail, I'm talking about the lady that is a therapist and she's doing the couples therapy for, I'm assuming, Prince Petty. How you doing? I'm assuming for Black couples. And I'm going to go ahead and play the clip of her talking because that gives us the kind of the background of what I'm talking about. She can explain it better than I can. I hate how much this thing lags.
I'm a therapist, licensed psychologist. I work with women primarily, Black women, and I work with a handful of couples. Couple revelations. I haven't seen any of my couples this week. And I realized that my energy at the end of the week was different, notably different. And I connected it to the fact that it's because I'm not seeing the couples. And the couples that I'm currently working with are all heterosexual couples. And the emotional labor for me to see the men in the relationship as full, whole human beings who are deserving of love and empathy is sometimes overwhelming because of the way that I see them engage with their women partners and the way that I see the women partners overcompensate for their male partners' lack of empathy, lack of compassion, lack of emotional intelligence, lack of responsiveness, lack of accountability. It's exhausting. Women who are in loving, intimate relationships with cishet men are doing a lot of emotional labor, in addition to a lot of additional domestic labor, especially if there's a marriage and households. The math ain't mathing in these relationships. And sometimes the responsibility for me as a therapist to be objective and to hold the space of serving the couple is effort because I really, really want to talk to the men. and help build the men's emotional intelligence and the men's capacity for emotional discomfort and the men's ability to regulate their own emotions and the man's ability to be accountable for their behaviors. So, for all you cishet women, especially Black cishet women that are out there thugging it out in love with a cishet Black man, I see you. Your labor is noted.
Okay, so um, as you can see, she was she said the men gonna be quiet on this one, probably. So as you can see, she's talking about cis het relationships between the men and the women. And there's a at the top, like before anybody came in, I put for Harriet did an interview with her last week. She did an interview with her, and I subscribed to For Harriet's Patreon. So I was just there to just view as a viewer of For Harriet as a patron. And I was sitting and I was watching it, and I was just like, oh my goodness, this is in my book. Oh my goodness, this is in my book. Like, it's so interesting, even though she's just talking about men and women relationships in general, outside of, having children together or anything like that. It was just hitting me about the dynamics that she was talking about and how it was relevant specifically to single mothers, um, and how we have to deal with it. Just as a woman dealing with a man, especially a Black woman dealing with a Black man, you find yourself having to pull all this extra weight. But I feel like there's even more weight that's put on it when you are a single mother, or when you are, when you have a child with these men. Because I know, me personally, I have experienced having that notion kind of weaponized against me and used as a way to keep me in the dynamic of giving and giving and giving and making concessions and making sacrifices in this effort of this bond, and I talk about a bond in the book, that we have, and just saying like, oh, we should, hey, curly hair and I care, this idea, oh, we have this connection, so you should be more willing to give or to sacrifice or to be a bit uncomfortable to make this relationship work. And so I just thought it was really interesting. Hey, Spark Joy, Nia X, how you doing? Come on in. I thought it was really interesting, and so I wanted to kind of watch it with you guys. And I will be jumping in here and there, and I will open up the panel a little later too to talk about these things, because I just felt like it was really interesting to look at it from the perspective of a single mother. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let me mute me first. I don't want to. I just kind of started it from a little further. Like, she did the introduction, she played her video and everything like that. So I'm just kind of starting it from. I took notes, so it'll be a little less clunky. I thought I was the only one. Oh my God, this is a theme that's really happening.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think that I was just listening to another podcast, and she was talking about to separate from husband because she felt like, oh, maybe if I'd just stuck it out like a couple more months or a couple more years, who knows when he would have made the turn. And I remember listening and being like, girl, he wasn't gonna make the turn. Like he wasn't.
Baby, his lane was straight.
Right. But I do feel like women, particularly when we're partnered with men, like we just feel like if we just do more work, just stick it out, like he's gonna come around, he's gonna evolve, he's gonna like change his mind, and then we're just stuck for months and years, and we wasted our time effectively.
Yes. Yeah. One of the most important psychological concepts I learned in graduate school was about intermittent positive reinforcement. So that has the strongest response rate for people to adhere or stick to a pattern or behavior. So the intermittent means you don't know when it's going to come. And then the positive, it feels good. And I think that's what happens a lot in these relationships, is that every now and again, you'll see a glimpse of like, oh, so he does know how to act. Oh, he does have emotional intelligence. I heard him say this the other day, and then nothing. And so you're like, okay, well, I'm going to stay. He has the capacity. Maybe if I do this or I lean in more here, it'll start to show up consistently. And that's typically not what happens, because the level of insight has not been developed for most cishet men to know I have to be accountable for myself in relationship all the time. Oh, I'm not the son, right? Like, so there's a lot of socialization that happens from early on for most cishet men that like centers them in everything. And so now you come along in adulthood and you're trying to do this co-creation thing. You're trying to partner, and it's just a skill set that they have never really been forced to develop. And sometimes it's when they are left, or when they are, a lot of times the couples come to me or
fear when it comes to partnership and love, and like you don't want to make the wrong choice, and this man gonna spend
stop, girl. What you doing? What you doing, Kim? Anyway, I wanted to jump in on that last part. She was talking about them like wanting to be the child, because I've seen that so much, not just, in my experience, but in other people's experience around me, where you get with this man and y'all have a child, and then you become different because now you're a mother. You're not just a woman. You're not just somebody that he can hang out with. It's not just about you two. So your vision and your attention and your efforts are going more so towards this innocent, this person that needs you in a way that a grown person shouldn't. And it's not necessarily that you're not trying to be available to him as his woman, but maybe you're not as available to him to mother him as much. And you'll see like jealousy. You'll see jealousy from the man towards the child, even if it's their child, but especially if it's not their child. Like if you are a single mother and you get in relationships, I knew someone very close to me that was in a relationship with a guy, and they already had a son, and that person like just really didn't like the child and didn't like the fact that the child was there. You know what I mean? And it was clear that they went on and had another child, and he would differentiate in different ways, but still would be, even with his own child, it was just like he really just wanted it to be all about him. He wanted to own the mother, the woman, all to himself and have dibs. You know what I mean? And now, mind you, as a mother, I have 2 daughters, and they're 10 years apart. But they're kind of possessive of me, even to this day. Like they'll just come and want to be all up on me and want to just hold me and touch me and know where I'm at and everything like that, and just can't be in their own skin unless they know what I'm doing or can put their hand on me in a given moment. But men are like that as well. So I just thought that was really, really interesting. Erica says, and what is their obsession with being able to discipline your girl? I talked about that last week. I really truly feel like that has to do with they don't have a lot of control over other things, and this idea of just like, oh well, I gotta be the man of the house, I have to be in control. And so this idea that, oh, I need to know that I can come in and brutalize your child if I see fit. You know what I mean? Like you can't if I choose to do whatever to your child, you can't tell me no. You know what I mean? And like that's just very off-putting, to say the least. It's off-putting. But let me go back to this video.
The other piece is this is why I talk so much about the relationship and the partnership, right? Because as an individual, I am not perfect. As an individual, I can be self-centered. As an individual, I can like mess up a lot. Mm-hmm. And so can he. It's about what are we willing to do to be in partnership together. Mm-hmm. And what women have over women or people that are socialized to be women, right? We tend to be socialized to be relational.
Sorry, that's a little too far. I'm going back a bit.
Women are good. So like, how do we talk about these things without demonizing generally an entire gender?
Yes. And so absolutely. So one, I think the reason why women are working so hard, right, being so emotionally over invested, is because cishet women love cishet men, and particularly like Black women just really stand Black men. They're like, it starts from a place of love, and we want to be connected with them because we know when they do show up in their fullness and their best. So I think we want to be reminiscent of that constantly, sort of center that and articulate that even more. And I think the other piece is this is why I talk so much about the relationship and the partnership, right? Because as an individual, I am not perfect. As an individual, I can be self-centered. As an individual, I can like mess up a lot. Mm-hmm. And so can he. It's about what are we willing to do to be in partnership together. Mm-hmm. And what women have over women or people, it's it's happening from us from the beginning. And so we have more strength, more robustness, more resilience, and being able to access those parts of ourselves typically. And men, it's the opposite, right?
I think it's a ad.
Now you can access the entire Amboss library inside your Anki flashcards. On top of instant pop-up definitions and medical imaging, you can now read Amboss.
And it's the opposite, right? It's about the production. It's about what it looks like. It's about accomplishment. Mm. And so what we have to figure out is the partnership of how that actually is not working against each other. Let's figure out how to make it work together, right? Because I want you to be your whole full version of yourself. And I want to be my whole full version of myself. The problem is, how do we stay connected and figuring out how to do that together?
Yeah.
And the shit is hard because to be in loving, right, healthy relationship with someone requires you to be self-aware and requires you to be accountable.
Since you're here, this is something that's been on at the top of my mind, and I don't have therapy. I feel like I am a natural communicator of being like, if I just explain this a different way, okay, do I need to use different words? Okay, so these are the words you're familiar with, so let me try to explain.
Hey, True Mystique. I was trying to stop it for the longest time. So if you saw me looking crazy, it's because I was clicking on it and it just kept going. Like it didn't want to stop. I wanted to catch what she said because she was talking about how being in relationship with someone requires a certain level of accountability and like willingness to work with that other person and know you're not perfect and things like that. And I wanted to highlight how, yes, that is what you need to do in a relationship. But when you're talking about being in relationship as a single mother and you're talking about all of these ways, hey, Yazzie Fruitcakes, all of these ways that these men have positioned themselves to trick you into these relationships where you feel like, okay, we are in a relationship, we're in a partnership, and you're operating under that mindset of, oh, we're in a partnership, you know, I'm going to treat this as a relationship. But in their mind, they're like, okay, this is temporary, or this isn't that big of a deal, or, you know, she's not a regular full woman that would get the same consideration as a, you know, high value woman or a marriageable woman, you know, whatever. So you are making those concessions and you are trying to be accountable. There's so many times where I was thinking of the relationship as a whole. You know what I mean? And that's why I talk about in my book, The Bond. And the bond is this idea that, oh, well, because we have a child and we have this history, it may show up when people are talking about it like, oh, well, you know, we have a history, even if you don't have children. We've been together so long and I know him, he knows me, we go through things, but, you know, it's not worth throwing the whole relationship away. But when you have a child, there's that added dynamic of, well, we have a child together, we're always going to be around each other, we're always going to be family. You know what I mean? We're going to have to be around each other. This mindset of like, I didn't realize, but like I felt trapped. Honestly, I felt trapped in that relationship. And so I felt like, well, since I'm kind of trapped with this person for the rest of my life, I need to try to find a way to make it work. And so because women are always internalizing these type of situations of saying, well, what can I do? How can I make it better? How can I be a good partner and a good team member and, you know, whatever, that you wind up being vulnerable. And I'm gonna use the word that they kept naive, because you're moving in the spirit of family and you're moving in the spirit of, you know, a win-win and the whole being okay, right? It says, Erica says, that's what I'm going to start telling these young ladies. They're wasting their time in young years waiting for these black men to get it together. Yeah, blind loyalty is over, Erica. We need to ensure it. Absolutely. And this next part is really, really good. I loved it.
Explain it this way. And I'm like, this is too much. I feel like I'm doing too much talking. Like, you get it. You're a smart person.
Yes.
So how do I get out of that cycle?
So what I talk to my couples a lot about is being curious. So rather than focusing on the explaining your part, get curious about where the disconnect is. So, you know, I've been noticing I'm blah, 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 or I've been trying to do that. It seems like when I bring that up, you're not responding, or maybe you don't fully get it. Talk to me about what you hear me say, right? Mm-hmm. It's an invitation in. And the more questions you ask, the more curiosity you can develop in your relationship. That's the most defenseless position you can be in. I think part of the social is ready to come with your answer. So there's
the computer keeps doing this delay thing where I'll click on a button and nothing happens. So I click it again and then, you know, it'll undo what I did. So sorry about that. So she was talking, Kim asked a question about women dumbing themselves down to be in these relationships because these dudes are just not getting it. And that's something that I did mention in my book. I said my oldest daughter's father wasn't exactly an intellectual type. And we had many an encounter where he perceived my sense of humor or taste as bourgeoisie and I hadn't realized how stifled I had been feeling up until then. Patty says it's cutting out. Can you guys hear me? Put a 1 in the chat if you heard what I just said. It's 6:25, so I think you can hear me. It doesn't say mute on my end, but like I said, it was doing that thing. Can you guys hear me? Let me know if you can hear me, or let me know if I'm muted if you can't hear me. Can you hear me? I see chat. Okay, you can hear me. All right. Thank you. So, okay, good. So you heard what I read. So that part was about when I was with one of my daughter's fathers. It was a very big source of contention between me and him because I am, I consider myself a bit of an intellectual. I like deep thinking. I like deconstructing concepts and exploring things and kind of picking them up and turning them around and looking at them from different angles. Whereas he was just more of, I would say I'm more of a Spike Lee and he's more of a Tyler Perry type. You get what I'm saying? So he just would receive things that I would be saying, especially things that I would be saying in earnest to help, as me being judgmental or me like putting myself above him. There were so many times when he'd just be like, oh, you think you're better than me, and things like that. And it wasn't that I was feeling that way or saying that or anything. That's just the way that he perceived it. And for those of us that are in the Discord, one of the male members was having an issue that I happen to have expertise in because I'm a licensed cosmetologist. And I said something in the Discord, just telling him what I knew and giving him some advice based on that. And the other women in the Discord were just like, wow, I could feel the love in that statement. You know what I mean? And I was just, chatting. I didn't mean anything in particular by it. I was just like, look, you need to do this because this will happen and you don't want this, blah, 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 blah. And they were just like, I can feel the love in that. Like multiple people said that. And it just stopped me in my tracks because I'm like, how many times in my life have I experienced and other women experienced just telling a man something from an earnest place, of expertise, of experience, of wisdom. And they receive it as though you're just trying to be smarter. You're trying to emasculate them or something like that. And they can't understand that I'm operating as a part of your team. Curly, it says, Vitamin Key, you were misunderstood. Did you dumb yourself down? I definitely did dumb myself. I didn't dumb myself down, but I would just stay quiet. I would just, I see something and I feel like I want to say something, but I know it's not going to be received. So I just wouldn't say anything. You know what I mean? But that didn't help for me because it just made me feel like I said, I felt stifled. Demas said he understood you were better than Thank you for that. What's that? Oh, she said, hi, Demas. They see you in here. But yeah, like having to deal with the cutting off your voice because anything that you say trying to take over, and because you're in that space of wanting to be like a team member, you're like, oh, because for me it was just like, oh, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that. I didn't mean to be that way. I didn't mean to make you feel that way. So automatically trying to fix it when it really wasn't nothing to be fixed. You were just helping and you weren't being smart. But they'll sit and say, oh, men are logical, women are emotional, but like they can't take that back when you're just saying facts. You know what I mean? With no kind of malice, with no kind of really emotional energy whatsoever, just observational and experience. So I just thought that was really, really interesting to me. Spark Joy says it makes it hard to that 50 build a man up nest. How can the unit grow if he can't listen? Absolutely. Like, how are you really going to grow? Is it really about y'all growing? Did it show that? I'm going to share the link. The internet says, I remember when an ex tried to have an intellectual conversation and he shut me down with a light statement basically saying, I man, you woman. At that moment, I was like, this ain't gonna work. Yeah, like what can we do? If you don't want to hear my thoughts, because I'm in my head. The only time I'm not in my head is when I'm asleep. You know what I mean? And even then I might be dreaming, but I've always got like things I'm noticing and questions and like don't you find this interesting? Have you ever thought about this and did it? Like that's just the type of person I am. And when you don't mess around and say something and point out that something they're saying or thinking doesn't make sense, or even that something they're saying or doing is in opposition to what they said they wanted, or you know what I mean? Like then all hell breaks loose. Invincible Summer says projecting his insecurities. Erica says, but when you've been socialized to believe that you're more logical because you have pain, how do you accept when someone tells you need to improve? It's impossible. Yeah, it really is. And that's when like that parent not being able to pair bond. And it's like, I'm trying to bond in general. I don't know about this pair bonding stuff, but anyone can be in it. Two entities can be in a relationship. And in order to be in a relationship, there has to be a certain level of vulnerability and receptiveness. And I can't be vulnerable with you if you're not going to be receptive to the things that I'm saying that affect me as well. And I can't be receptive to you if I got to do this because you're always trying to, assert dominance over me. Like, what are we doing? Tori B says, nope, it's about you building him up so he can then take who you've made him and grow with someone else. Absolutely. I've experienced that as well. It's that thing of like, you see me as equal or maybe even less. So like sometimes they will come into the situation knowing that you have all the resources, you have all the stuff that they need, and they sit there and lick their wounds and take your love and take your energy and build themselves up. But then they want to go show their new bright shiny selves off to somebody who doesn't know that aspect of them, so they can come in and they're just like, oh my God, look at this man, look at him. Ooh, okay. This thing. All right. I don't know what happened. I was there and then I wasn't. So I'm gonna play that part back because I don't know what happened. But give me a second here. And I am connected to the Ethernet, so I don't know what's going on. It's like some days it wants to help me, and other days it's just like effing me. So I don't know what's going here, going on here. Let me see. Hold on, trying to get back to where it was.
Sexuality context.
Do you think
that people should be breaking up sooner?
Do you feel like
We're just doing too much work to just make stuff work that's not supposed to work?
I think yes, and I also think that's a big part of like our monogamous cruelty. You find somebody, you try to make it work because you're supposed to lead to marriage, or you're supposed to lead to long-term partnership. And so we do end up investing a lot of time and energy in things that really, really do not serve us. I think people need to get much more clear about what their green lights are. I'm talking a lot about red flags. What are your green flags? What are your green lights? Get clear on that and start looking for that. And they're not responding to those things. It really doesn't matter what the red flags are. You can have 1 to 5 red flags, but if you got 0 green flags, what are these flags? So start getting clear about what your green flags are. If you, baby, it's probably not gonna show up. Like, because we know that people are out here sort of sitting there. They're probably the best versions of themselves, right? Because we know that people are out here sort of sitting their representatives, but they're not sitting in their worst representatives. Best representatives now. So look for those things and deal with the reality. I still believe far too many women are looking at potential.
Everything is treating me bad. Oh my God. Every time I go back and forth between the what's it called? Every time I toggle between the tabs, you know what? It's probably because I can let this go. I'm gonna let this go. Not that, dang it. I have to go back and get it. But I have a bunch of other tabs open, so that might be the problem. But in the meantime, while I'm trying to get that back, what I was saying was I like what she did, these red flags that we'll be so aware of houses. Flags we're aware of, but we don't have any green flags. And for me, that is so that's so poignant to me because here in the book, I love it can be easy to get lost, but if the father's not including himself, you shouldn't be towing his line. I struggled with doing the most in order to provide my child a nuclear family structure, but all I succeeded in doing was creating chaos and building the foundation of dysfunction in the formative years of my older daughter's life. I said, I basically was saying how, and it's a bit earlier, like in the, what's this called? The foreword. I talked about how I was so obsessed with being with my child. She said, it's okay, you try, Key. That's all right, I'm gonna get it back. I was trying so hard to make a family with my oldest daughter's father because I felt like I had forfeited, other options. Since I had this baby, I call it landmines. I had all these landmines of ideology that I didn't even know lived inside of me that said, oh no, you got to get married. You got to marry him. Y'all got to be a family. You got to do all of this stuff. And so everything that I was doing was more so about what I didn't want as opposed to what I actually wanted. And inside my book, I talk about, getting yourself together, getting your mind clear so that you can make decisions instead of concessions. Because a lot of times we'll make a bunch of concessions. Who is this hole in the book? Oh, it's Stevens. Goodbye. Why?
Wait, I was trying to troll. I apologize.
I knew because I saw those emojis and I was like, I don't know who this is.
So you were just gonna ignore me.
I didn't know. I did at first, and then you went away, and then you was forward the book. I'm like, who is this?
Anyway, put me back in the back. I'll listen.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, what I was saying, like you make concessions instead of decisions because you feel like you don't have any other choices and you don't feel like you're in a position. And that's why I go so hard when I hear them talking about accountability, because all of that is about making you feel like you don't have the right to make choices. You know what I mean? Like you don't have the right to say, this doesn't work for me, or I don't feel like that's good enough, or I politely decline. Like you can't even politely decline because they feel like, well, you did these things and you made these decisions and these are your circumstances now. So anytime that you try to assert yourself within your own life, it feels, or they treat it like it's some kind of transgression against them and even society as a whole. And I don't like that. I don't like it. Curly hair and I care says landmine sounds better. Theme has got me calling my kids parasites. I mean, Tiff says you can't want the family more than them. You drive yourself silly. Thanks for the kid. Toodles, bro. Exactly. Like, what else can you do? What else can you do? Thema says they are parasites. Well, like I said, it depends on the day. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say it don't feel that way, especially the oldest one. Jesus. But let me try. I'm gonna try and get the thing back. But I wanted to talk about, what did I say? It says, that being said, I still held the belief that their relationship was built on dysfunction, and if he ever got himself together mentally, emotionally, and financially, he would want to share his best self with me. I had become reluctant yet benevolent. Wait, what does that have to do with? Never mind. Hold off on that. That didn't necessarily have anything. It does, but it doesn't. I can't quite catch it right now because I'm trying to do a million things. So just bear with me. It can't be that far down. Here she goes. For women in therapy, there's far more women doing self-awareness and self-evolution. I got it. So now I just got to put it back up here. This is a lot. Oh.
I'm a mental health provider. I'm a coach. I know who comes to me in the ratio of men that come to me versus women, right? And the same is true for many of my clients. So you gotta come with a foundation. We can build, but I already got like the power tools. I've got my lumber. Where's your cement truck? Right? So there's nothing wrong with building. I mean, for me, that's still the ultimate ideal relationship is you bring your full self and all of what you have. I bring mine, and we're building legacy. We're building long-term love and stability, and joy and adventure and sexiness. I want to do all of that. But if you are starting with, you know, the Fisher Price version of a tool set, and I have the whole set from Lowe's, we just two different spaces.
Yeah. Do you believe in attachment styles?
Oh yes, absolutely.
So people should read Attached. I was talking to a friend of mine, a male friend of mine, and he's like,
Yeah, we can go past
men,
this
and
one.
he's like, if a woman tries to give me another copy of Attached, and I'm like, just read it. Like,
Those things. So this.
yeah, I think the vulnerability piece really hits on something I've been thinking about a lot recently. And in thinking through, you know, the rise of people like Kevin Samuels and why people are so drawn to that kind of stuff. And also, you know, women have their relationship channels too. And I feel like we're all operating from like this like defensive mode. There's so much fear when it comes to partnership and love, and like you don't want to make the wrong choice, and is this man gonna spend up on my money, and like is he gonna be a cheater, and like, and on the other hand, like she's gonna divorce me and take everything, and it's like, you know, I definitely feel it.
Yeah. So one of the things that I think we get wrong a lot is to think when there is intimacy, I can risk vulnerability. And actually the opposite is true. I have to risk vulnerability to build the intimacy. And so we have to get out of this fear space. And we know energetically fear is going to engender more fear. That sort of negative energy is going to engender more negativity, right? You show up with defenses, somebody is going to respond with either detachment, disengagement, right? It gets you the opposite. I think authenticity is what's really needed. So you can only control yourself, right? We know there are men that are out there that are going to be disingenuous. We know there are men out there that are going to lie. We know there are men out there that are going to cheat. But that's not every man.
Yeah.
Right? It's not every man. And we have to really start to get more into a space of holding out a sense of sort of optimism, being willing to sort of see the person that's really in front of us for the good and the bad. And then getting really clear with ourselves, worth it.
How do you know?
Okay, so I love that part because when she's talking about like you have to risk vulnerability to build intimacy. And I found that really, really important because, like I said, so many times, so much emphasis is put on this bond that people believe that they have. One person will believe you have this bond. This other person may or may not believe that you have this bond, but they most definitely like to capitalize off of the belief that you have of having this bond. But there is no real intimacy. You know what I mean? I definitely experienced feeling like I was in a relationship with my child's father and acting as if I was in a relationship with my child's father, and then having it kind of like, running into a wall when there would be some kind of situation where I was expecting him to treat me like we were in a relationship, to work within the confines of a healthy relationship anyway. And having being met with, we're not together, or kind of like, why are you expecting that of me? You're just my baby mom, or we aren't in a you're not my girlfriend type of thing, or you're not my woman type of thing. You get what I'm saying in this idea. That's why I said, like, there's so many things that she's talking about within a relationship, and it's such a different experience when you're coming from it from being a baby mom, because like I said, it is in your mind a male-female relationship, but there is this aspect of it where I feel like the men will take ownership of you because, oh, you're my baby mom, you have my child. You know what I mean? So that makes you, yes, Prince Petty, the baby type of man. Yes, you're my baby mom, so I have some kind of ownership over you. However, I am not beholden to you because we are not together. And what she's talking about is really a big trap for us as single mothers, because we feel like we are in a relationship, and we're sleeping with this person. You know what I mean? We're trying to a lot of times fulfill these traditional gender roles. We're trying to give them that space to be the best father they can be. We're making some concessions. We made things in the interest of maintaining this relationship, maintaining this facade, maintaining this image. But then we're being met with, oh, well, why would you think, yes, Theme is in a relationship alone. We're being met with, well, why would you think that I would do that for you? Why would you think, why would you expect me to bring more than one thing? That's my child. I'm doing what I'm doing for my child. You know what I mean? When there's this understanding of like, I thought we were better than that. You get what I'm saying? And it's not even all the time about you feeling like, oh, well, I'm your woman, you should do this because I'm your woman. But I thought we were friends. You know what I mean? Like, I thought we were friends. I thought we were family. Wouldn't you look out for a friend or a family member in this way? But there's that othering and that pushing away that makes it hard and dangerous. And mind you, in the midst of all of this emotional bullshit you going through with this person, you still got to raise this child. Add on top of that, if it's a boy, or if they just look like that man, there's so many different things that pile on to that experience of being a single mother. And it makes it really, really hard to not only love black men or love men, but yeah, black men, there's mostly black women in this space, love black men, but even like black men, you know what I mean? And then add on that added layer of, as a single woman, you're trying to date, but then they have these categories that they're putting you in because you're a single mother, because you have children, because you're used, because you're a lock that a lot of keys can open, and all this other BS. It's like, how do you have that space? And then they want to have these conversations about, oh, you're too masculine. I'm constantly having to do this. Even when we're in situations where we should all be able to come together and do for the children, do for the community, do for each other, I'm still having to do this. You know what I mean? I'm still having to protect myself against predation. I'm still having to protect myself against exploitation. You know what I mean? So it's like the question. I'm like, how am I gonna stop being crazy? Like, how am I supposed to do that? Demon says, drop them. Listen, it ain't even that. It ain't even that easy. I remember when my second daughter's father, I think I wrote about it in the book. He lived around the corner from me, and I thought everything should be cool. And then come to find out, oh, there's a private chat. Thank you for that. So how do I get back to the regular chat? Oh, comments. Okay. I'm just learning the StreamYard thing. It's wild. It's a lot of things going on. I need octopus arms. Um, but yeah, like I would send my daughter around the corner, and then I remember I would send my daughter around the corner, and she was like a baby. She wasn't even talking yet. She was like 2 and under, and I would take her clothes, I would take her Pampers, stuff like that, and everything. And then one day, I don't know what he was mad at. Mind you, he's around there with his new baby mom, and I think they had either she had the one child and she was pregnant with the second, or she already had the second. I don't remember, but I think she was pregnant. And he said some slick shit to me, and I just was like, oh, you know what? You should have been had some stuff at your house for her anyway. I'm not taking nothing else. I'm not bringing nothing else. And I would literally just drop my baby off as is and then go on about my business. So then I remember the baby mom, I don't know if she called me or somehow we wound up talking to each other. And I was just like, look, she didn't know. He never told her what happened. He never told her like how he had been really disrespectful. Mind you, he didn't work. She worked. She was paying the bills over there. I worked. I was, by myself in my own apartment or whatever. And he was just talking real slick to me. And I was like, look, I'm too nice to you, clearly. So then when I stopped bringing the stuff around, who was picking up the slack but her? And she's like, well, it's a lot on me. I'm like, look, sis, this baby was here when you came. You decided to come. You decided to get pregnant. You decided to have multiple children. My baby was already here. So you gonna have to talk to him about getting himself together and talking to me a little better, and we can work all of that out. But yeah, it's not gonna work for me. But yes, that's my story. Let me go back to the video. We went on a tangent.
Kimberly, you feel that. Especially at this point, you had enough situationships, you had enough experience, you heard enough of your friend stuff. You smell the bullshit. You know when it's not. What I think happens in those moments is we don't acknowledge our loneliness enough, right? So oftentimes we're making decisions out of our loneliness that really compromises our sense of integrity. So yeah. So we're like, but he smelled good and he looked good and we laugh and, he took me to a nice place. It felt good. And then all the other stuff is like, yeah, it's missing. Just be honest, right? Like just enjoy it for what it is rather than trying to make it something that's down the road. And it's okay to have fun in a placeholder situation. And so this is the other piece. If you're going to invest for the ability to learn something new about yourself. You can have joy, you can experience pleasure, you can have a little adventure. And I'm doing that thing again. And I know how this is going to turn out. So let me too caught in, it's either got to be this or that. It's got to be right or wrong. It's going to lead to something or it's not. And there's just way more gray. And if we give ourselves the permission to be in the gray, to be vulnerable even with ourselves, to allow ourselves to mess up.
When I tell you, it was so many juicy little tidbits in this thing because that part is so relevant because, like I said, those landmines of indoctrination, of societal standards, of patriarchy, of all of that stuff were living in me. And when I was a free and clear young woman, I didn't know. I thought I was just living free. But as soon as I had a baby, everything had weight to it. There was nothing that I could do in my own mind except for getting myself back on the path of being a good girl. I mentioned it on Themis Live when we were talking about the book. I felt like I had fell from grace. I felt like I was a good girl that had fallen. And so my whole thing became, I got to get him specifically because he is the father of my child, and because it should be easier because we share a child, and all this other, BS in my mind made me like obsessed with partnering with him. And so every interaction, every time, and like I said, he was capitalizing off of the fact that I was in this unclear space, and off of the fact that I was so, intent on him specifically, that I wasn't going out and just living and experiencing and learning and gaining wisdom. Everything, I couldn't make a bad move. But in the midst of me, trying to make all the right moves, I was making so many blunders and digging myself deeper. Like I talked about, digging myself deeper into that hole I thought I was already in, that it made me feel worse and worse. And it was a cycle. And like I said, he wasn't the only one. It was men that I didn't have children with that were able to come and like capitalize off of that state that I was in, because I couldn't take the, hop down off the cross and take the weight off of myself. She says, you were vulnerable. I describe it as exactly. And that's why I wrote the book, because I just was like, it is a fog, and I call it a veil. You have all these things that are covering your clear vision of objectivity and looking at it and saying, okay, yeah, I have a baby with this guy, but he's clearly not into me, or he's clearly not meeting me where I'm trying to meet him at. We're not on the same level. We don't have the same vision. It's cool. Let's go do our thing. And then the messed up part about it is, even when I would get that clarity, he would see that and then go, oh, wait, no, come back, baby. We could be a family. Come here. You want to be a family? Come on. We could be a family. Come on. You see this? You know what I mean? So it's like you're in this space of being vulnerable because you have all of these landmines implanted in you, but you're also trying to operate as a woman, but you're also trying to be that, Madonna that everybody says you have to be, and that pillar of, the Black woman-led family that is infallible, that doesn't have, and that put me in a really weird space. Like I'm still in a little bit TMI, but not really. I'm still in a weird space when it comes to sexuality, because of all the things I went through, because of how vulnerable I was, because of all the ways that once I realized people had, used me and exploited me, and I already had stuff within me implanted from when I was younger, and my mother was operating a certain way that I felt as a child. I felt like she was kind of prioritizing sex and men over me. So I had that pressure on me to be a different type of woman and a different type of mother. I had a lot. I was dealing with a lot, and you're walking around and you're trying to be a mom, and you're trying to be and you're working and you're providing, and you're trying to be all of these things, but you have no idea what you're up against. And where is the space that is held for you to be able to sit down and not have to protect yourself from people trying to stick their penis in you and leave, from people trying to exploit you, from people trying to shame you because they just want to feel like they're above you for whatever reason, or they just want to see you accountable, or whatever that means to them. And you know what I mean? Where is the space for you? Got the babies needing whatever they need from you, at any given time. Where is the space for you to sit back and breathe and go, what is in here? What is this? To go, I'm going to pick I love this head. I talk about it every time. I'm just go, oh, this is some bullshit. You know what I mean? And just take it and throw it away. You really don't have any of that. And so that's where I was like, I knew from early on, I'm like, I'm going to have to do something. I'm going to have to be in the community. I'm going to have to, it wound up being a book, but I was like, I'm going to have to do something, because this is real. Like I said, I live in my mind. So I was experiencing this stuff, but I was also listening to other people experiencing this stuff and going, nobody's talking about this. Nobody seeing, like, we're experiencing it. We know how it feels, but we don't know why we feel that way. And a lot of cases, we don't even know we can feel that way. So how are we supposed to fix it and be accountable? And you know what I mean? It's just a lot. Erica says, they're socialized to see your vulnerability as an opportunity. They learn deceptive partnering tactics. Women learn them too, but not to the extent men learn how to relate to women. Yeah, and like I said before, like, doing shadow work is a freaking privilege, because like I said, you can't, I always say accountability is a tool and not a weapon, but it's weaponized so much. You're constantly like this. You're constantly having to hide, protect yourself from people weaponizing accountability against you. How are you supposed to be able to sit and go, okay, I could improve in this area, and I could see how I messed that up, and I could see how I was a little crazy there, and I could have did a little better. You can't do that because you got somebody chomping at the bit, waiting in the wind to go, yeah, bitch, and knock you over the head or burn you at the stake for it. You know what I mean? And then you get angry. And you can't really, then they're like, see, you're masculine, or see, you're what's that called? You're out of order or whatever. That's why you get the things you get, because it's you. And it is you, but it's not you because you're defective or deficient. It's you because you don't know if you're coming or going. You know what I mean? It's by the grace of God that you're making it where you need to go, because you're not able to see. There's so much coming at you. There's so much you gotta, like Fruit Ninja, there's so much that you gotta do just to survive and keep going. She says, eat or be eaten up. Yeah, had to let it out subconsciously. That's the thing. When you're letting it out subconsciously, that's when it's coming out. I talk about it in the book. I say we always talk about real, recognizing real, and not tolerating fakeness from other people. But what do you do when the snake in your life is tearing you down as you? I said where is it? Think about moments when you're snapping at your kids while you're in your own head and you're wondering why you're so mad at this little person that you love so much, and how the things flying out of your mouth at them are so horrible, yet you can't seem to stop. If you're constantly at a level of 45 on a scale from 1 to 10, if you're increasingly resentful of the multitude of tasks that make up your list of daily responsibilities pertaining to your children, if you're constantly looking to the past or the future and unable to sit still and quiet in the here and now and feel joyful without feeling like or fearing that it's just temporary, you're most certainly not happy. And I can guarantee that it's affecting your relationship to and with your children, because that's really, like I said about the whole McDonald's thing, it's about the kids at the end of the day. And the part that really struck me and was hurtful for me was that I'm having to navigate all of this stuff. And like, especially the father of the child is making it so hard on me with all his tomfoolery and trickery, that you're making it harder for me to be able to keep a balance so that I can deal with your child properly. Because I knew, coming from a place where I had really loving, kind rearing as a child, I knew that something was off with me. But because it was coming from so many different areas and it was so, complex, I couldn't do that shadow work. I didn't even know what shadow work was. You know what I mean? So I couldn't do that work to be able to get myself together so that I'm not snapping at my baby or, tuning her out. Like, there were times where I literally was just doing what I had to do for her. But otherwise, I was trying to like actively kind of zone out. So I'm zoning out with candy. And so I used to love gummy bear. I still love it, but you know what I mean? With candy and soda and all that other stuff. I'm an emotional eater. You know what I mean? I was never really into drugs like that. I smoked here and there, but mostly my stuff was sugar and food and eating and stuff. And then they want to talk about our weight and things like that. Like they have no idea, and they don't care about the ways that they treat us that contribute to the ways that we are trying to just cope and live and keep going. But then they want to sit and say, oh, we are the ones that are messing up the community. They want to talk about women's weight, but they don't want to talk about cortisol and how that comes from stress. And then you sit there and listen to them talking about, oh, yeah, well, a fat woman ain't for marrying, but I'll have sex with her. A fat woman having to deal with your dumb behind is going to be more stressful for her in the long run. You know what I mean? You want to see beautiful women? Stay out of their faces. Leave us alone. Like leave us alone. But I want to finish this part of it. It says, no matter how much you spend on extravagant clothes, toys, or trips, if you do not proactively deal with the negative feelings that you harbor about the harsher realities of your situation, they will manifest in the form of mood swings, risky or over an indulgent behavior, and an unhealthy to the point of obsessive need to try and control people and situations that aren't, never were, and never will be in your control. Now, this here I feel like is relevant to the McDonald's mom, because even though I fully understand where she was coming from, that is one of those things where like she clearly was not articulating it well. But how can you? Because it's not something, again, that you're allowed to think out in a way. It's not something that we talk about, whereas you as a single mother can say, and especially a single mother of multiple children can say, hey, I'm gonna need you to deal with this a little bit different, because I need your help in helping me protect the psyche of these other children, of my other children. You get what I'm saying? But not even understand, just having that visceral reaction of, you're not going to do this to me. You're not going to do this to my kids. This is wrong. You get what I'm saying? Because you don't know it enough to be able to bring them and say, hey, listen, think about it like this. Blah, 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 blah. You're constantly just being told, oh, that's your choices, your choices, your choices. I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to think about that. That's not my problem. But that's not the song he was singing before she had 4 children, when she just had 3 children and he wanted to slide in and leave a 4. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's all of that stuff. It is crazy making, man. It's crazy making. How weight gain is connected to trauma. Yeah, like not wanting to be touched, not wanting men to look at you and want you, hoping that they will go ill and go away. You know what I mean? But like I said, if you listen, and they'll still be, oh, I'll still have sex, because all of it is about, busting that nut. You know what I mean? So even in the midst of your protective mechanisms within your body and within your psyche, they're still like, nope, still want to do it. You know what I mean? And it's not like they're coming to you like, hey, I don't really like you, giving you that choice. They'll come to you and gas you up and look and try to go, boop, 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 boop. Okay, yeah, she doesn't think she's pretty. I'm gonna tell her she's beautiful. Oh, boop, 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 boop. She's lonely. I'm gonna sit around and hang out and keep coming around. And oh, boop, 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 boop. She's self-medicating with food and drugs and stuff. I'm gonna make sure I always have that working. You get what I'm saying? Like, always that scan of how can I exploit? Like, it's maddening. And then in the book, I go through a whole very detailed list of different things. I said we've all been and seen this single mother before. She can be a combination of any or all of these characteristics: combative, aggressive, permissive. And I don't want to read too much because I could be here a long time, but I say, well, you know what? No, it's my show. I'm gonna do what I want. Combative against anyone giving her or her children constructive criticism or warranted correction. Aggressive towards anyone and everyone, including her children. Short-tempered. Permissive, allowing her children to run all over her and anyone unlucky enough to be in their vicinity. Allowing men to use and abuse her or her children. Neglectful of her children by not attending to their needs in the most basic of ways, like feeding, bathing, properly clothing them, etc. Not monitoring and establishing standards for academic performance and behavior. Spending all of her free time with men or in the streets. Or neglectful of herself by not keeping herself reasonably presentable, isolating herself and or her children unnecessarily, limiting her own options due to a sense of duty and or hopelessness. Or she could be overindulgent of the children by having lax or non-existent standards of behavior, flimsy boundaries or none at all, no real consequences for poor behavior, spending obscene amounts of money on material things, or overindulgent of herself by using food, alcohol, sex, drugs, social media, relationships, etc., as a stand in for self esteem, to numb unwanted emotions, block bad memories, compensate for unmet expectations, and replace the things that they really want but don't believe they can have for whatever reason. And like, we see that so much in these women, and it's always just this is something, oh, well, she just made bad choices, and so that's on her. And I'm like, okay, yes, she has to deal with it. She has to sit down and, do that shadow work. She has to go ahead and figure out what she needs to do to make her life whatever it is she wants it to be. But again, you're in a battle zone. You're in a battle zone, and you're public enemy number one. You know what I mean? And all you was trying to do was be in love, be in a relationship, be close to somebody, or just have sex. Do that thing of just going out. A big thing, and this is me revealing my stuff, a big problem that I have, like I said, I still kind of struggle with sexuality and stuff because I was exploring as a young woman who had just turned, 18. I was out there exploring. I was out there just trying to figure out who I was and what I liked and things like that. And then I get caught up in this situation, totally on me. I spoke about it before. I know the ways where I went wrong and everything. But then having to deal with, like I said, all of these landmines and all of these attacks, because now I'm public enemy number one. And I didn't even know that was something that was possible to happen to me. Like, I knew having a child was not desirable. You know what I mean? I knew I didn't want to be a single mother who really goes out wanting to be a single mother, aside from other people. Some people do, but most people, I would feel like, don't. That are in my type of situation, they don't. But I really didn't understand just what position I was going to be in socially, and how people were going to start relating to me, and how people were going to start categorizing me, and how people were going to start trying to exploit me and then discard me and then scapegoat me and all of that all at once, while also dealing with the pain and the shame and the embarrassment, internally, of just having made a mistake. You know what I mean? So it's a lot. Spark Joy says that's so true. I wish people in social services and education had your compassion. Child, I talked last week about going to the welfare office for the first time and just having a woman just treat me so nastily. You know what I mean? And this is what you getting paid for this. Like, if people wasn't coming in here like me, what would you be doing? She said, oops, she said what she said, be us in that nut. Yeah. Just preying on women. Yeah, absolutely. But we can go back to the video. And now, don't y'all do me like y'all did me last time, because I invited, and then, like, right as I was leaving, everybody was like, well, not everybody, but a couple people was like, oh, I didn't know I could come up. I'm going to share the link again. Sorry.
Up to learn the lessons with self-compassion, then it makes it less sort of fraught. It makes it less sort of tension.
Wait, stop. Don't skip this video, because I've got great
tension filled, and you really can enjoy more of it than not enjoying it.
I've really been trying to approach dating from the viewpoint of there's no such thing as wasted time. No matter what happens here, you learn the lesson, you take the lesson lesson and you apply it to maybe not even the romantic part of your life, to another kind of relationship, and you're great and you feel good about it.
Overall purpose, right, is to constantly work on how we can be a better version. The beauty of romantic, the sex, the sexiness, that sort of extra energy that doesn't show up in all the other.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Hold on. Sorry. The thing just reloaded on me. I don't know why. How do you feel about Hold on 1 second. I'm going to stop the video. Hi there, Mango Woman. How are you? Welcome to Level Up.
Hello. I just want to say thank you for starting this channel. Remember a couple of years ago, I was really looking for like single Black women trying to figure it out. I was having like a panic attack. I finished college. I think I was just about to finish, probably like a month off. My mother-in-law at the time was living with me with the kids, and she just decided to leave because me and her son at this point has been separated. We weren't living together, you know, and she decided, I guess, she's gonna suck it to me because I no longer want her son. And I was like, my midterm was coming up. And I just knew like, okay, who's gonna watch these kids? Like, I have to go and take this final. Like, and my college wasn't so far. And I remember leaving my 10-year-old to watch her sister. And I was just like, I gotta go take this final. I went, took the final, and when I came out, like, it was just tears was running down my face. I ran home. And I just remember searching YouTube, like, come on, somebody got to look like me that's going through this, that's trying to figure it out. Because I'm like, okay, I graduated now. What does working look like with the kids? And how am I going to figure this out? Where am I even going to, start working at? Like, just feeling, because I felt like I planned like my whole educational life. But then outside of that, with children, I had no idea. And I just felt completely lost. So to see you doing this channel, and I was just like, no, I got way too much going on. There's no way I can start a channel. It's not going to work. I need somebody else to do this because we have to be able to have these conversations. So that's one thing I wanted to talk about that.
Oh, I am so grateful for you. Thank you so much for coming up and saying that, because this is the third year or so of me trying to build this. I was on Instagram, but me trying to build this platform because I felt the same way. Like I would come online trying to find someone who was having this experience, and so the best and the most feminine and the most beautiful, and it was just like, okay, maybe I am deficient, maybe I am a fuck up, maybe maybe I do deserve what's going on with me, maybe I'm not that smart. And over time of just still trying to do the work and figure it out, I was like, okay, maybe I'm gonna have to be their voice. Because I knew I wasn't alone. I would hear at the bus stop, I would hear the women talking. I'm like, okay, she's going through it too. I would hear it at the welfare office. I would see it at the doctor's office. I would see the women, fighting with their baby fathers and hear them saying the same stuff to them that I was hearing my baby father say to me. You know what I mean? So I am exceedingly grateful and humbled that you found me, and thank you so much for coming.
You're welcome. Definitely appreciate you. Keep doing it. I'll tune in when I'm available and you're on, or I'll rewatch it. usually. And the topic is definitely interesting. I watched that interview also with Kimberly when it was on, and it's an important read. And I feel like because I think I went through, like, I feel like 2020 was such a healing journey for all of us, you know. I went through that phase of just like deep diving into a lot. So when watching this interview, it's just like, okay, yes, I know this, but hearing this from a psychologist, it's like, oh yeah, it solidifies. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. It solidifies like my understanding and where it is. I know that I can finally just drop that bag and be like, you know what, you was freaking young. You don't get to be responsible for other people and always have to, figure it out and look back about if I knew this, if I knew that. Because that was my constant battle. Sorry if you hear baby boy in the
No,
background.
it's fine. I love the babies.
Yeah. Just constantly like holding that if I could, shoulda, woulda, coulda, all this, constantly replaying the memory of what, and being here now and seeing where I am and say, you know what, you you did it. Like, you did it. Like, you was a freaking kid trying to navigate the world, and to be here now. I had my daughter when I was 15, super young, and I guess I'll say devastation, because my mother wasn't supporting at all. I was like, went through homelessness at like 17 with my daughter. So when I say I came from the ground, I mean it every step of the way. So to be here where you're not on survival mode anymore because, financially stable, got a lot going on, a lot more better than before. You're not able to work on the emotional aspect of the stuff you didn't see or didn't connect to. Like when my daughter talks to me now, she's 21, she talks to me about the bullying she went through. Like, being a mom that's young too, you don't see what's happening. You're not able to be in tune to those little stuff. And then you don't realize they see you hustling and bustling and being busy, they don't want to put that burden on you too. So then they start absorbing stuff that now, as I'm a little bit more aware. She and I are unraveling those, early childhood stuff that she had to deal with growing up with a young mom also. So an interview like this is very introspective also. I don't want to say it gives you the room, but yes, it does give you the room to say, you know what, this is what I could have done and did, and everything else was out of my control. And it's okay to let it go and don't try to control the men and fix the men in my life to make sure they're holding their end of the bargain, right? Because for my children's father, I was like, okay, what can I do to make him be an active father? Like, maybe if I take him to court and be like, hey, judge, if he doesn't, take parenting classes or doesn't do this, we could say he don't get visitations, right? Like we could make it a way where we can force him to do it. And the more I thought about it,
I want to interject. I'm so happy you said that, because there's a part right here in the book. It says trying to suppress anger and hurt about our situation can cause us to unintentionally redirect that same energy towards things and people we don't mean to. It can also cause us to fixate on those we deem responsible for our pain, and as a result, focus on them by trying to teach, coerce, or punish them instead of feeding the more positive connections in our lives.
Yep, it does. And the more I thought about it, I said, that is so stupid. Like, why would you have to take somebody to court to force them to put in the effort you had to learn because you knew you wanted to be better for your children? Like, that doesn't make sense. And I just kind of I ruminated about that maybe like about a month. And I was like, no, I'm going to let it go. If he decides that he wants to take the step to be a better parent and get the help he needs, that's on him at this point. I had the conversation with the kids. I let them know where he is mentally. So when he starts being triggered, call mommy, walk away, don't interact, because he does these things where he like intimidates them
Mm-hmm.
to behave. And they're 13, 10, and 11 now, so they're a little bit more aware, and I don't have to deal with so much. They can decide whether they want to deal with him or
Yeah.
not. So that has been a blessing. Yeah, so that's all I have to say.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. Like I said, I am exceedingly honored that you came up and spoke with me and that you're here and watching this. And I'm so glad that you're finding value in it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
All
Well, you
right.
have a good evening. And, we're going to continue here. Please feel free to
Yes, I'll be
stay.
watching. I'll be in the audience.
All right. Have a good night. Oh, that makes us fun. I love that. I love that. I just want to, I want to make sure that we all feel seen and we all feel heard and validated, because, like I said, we're in this battle that none of us knew that we were signing up for. When we were just going out living like any other person, trying to love, trying to explore, trying to share, trying to be vulnerable, trying to build intimacy. You know what I mean? Like, it's really hard out here. Going back to the video.
They're not me. So there's some colonization, right? There's some very cis white male fuckery and Christian cis white male fuckery involved with love languages. So
Yeah.
so I think people like frameworks. I think people like blueprints, right? They want to be able to have some sort of rules around how to figure this out. And love languages is a way to really do that, right? It's like, oh, this, and this. If you want to go by love languages, the thing that I think people get most wrong is they focus more on their love language rather than what their partner's love language is. And that's where you get it twisted, right? It's not about how you express love. Not about how you express love. It's how you want love expressed back to you.
Yeah.
And so I won't buy into that. I don't really incorporate that into my practice, but lots of people who come to me are familiar with it, so it shows up, but too wrong. So if you're going to operate from love languages, what it requires is for you to get outside of your comfort zone, right? So if my love language is physical touch, that doesn't mean that I'm going to give physical touch. That means I need to communicate that that's what I want. And if his is gift giving, that means I have to get out of my comfort zone and think about how to give gifts. And I think that's where we go wrong with that more often than not.
Yeah. I have been perusing your TikTok over the past.
I'm sorry, I didn't have my self muted, so that was probably a echo on that one. My bad. But I wanted to say this next part is really, really great. This next part is about how your perfect partner might not come, and this is a big one. I know it was definitely a big one for me, wanting to have that, wanting to complete the circle and get that image, get back on the track of being that good girl. So feeling like I needed to partner initially with my child's father, and then when I finally accepted that wasn't going to happen, then kind of having the anxiety of trying to find someone who would have me. You know what I mean?
The past couple of days, and there's so many little nuggets that I thought were really compelling. So I want to bring up a couple of ideas that you touched on. Something that you brought up recently was the idea that so many Black women, so many women, I think in particular, because this is like the idea like that we have to work to be worthy of the love that we desire, like that is so deeply ingrained in misogynistic culture. And we feel like we're doing all this work, we're going to therapy, we're eating healthier, we're, learning how to ride dick, like all of this stuff, we're doing all of this work. And at the end of that work, then we're going to magically attract the perfect partner for us and fall in love. Like once we are 100% whole and complete, our perfect partner, no matter their gender, is going to drop down from the sky. And you were you stitched with somebody saying maybe not, right? Like
love hurts and that it's not going to work.
Videos resonate with me. I'm riveted by them. But I had to respond to this one, particularly in response to your question at the end, right? The help me make it make sense, help me have hope, help me understand. I wish I could say, girl, your man is coming. Sis, the love relationship you want is around the corner. But we both know that would be bullshit. What I can promise you, though, is that the work you're doing on yourself, the way that you are loving yourself, and the love that you pour out into this platform is where the healing comes. Lean into it, trust in it, receive all the love back.
like what our perfect magical lover now.
Conversation that, like I said, y'all, it was so much in that I was watching it in my job. I was just trying to watch it as a patron that I was just like, oh my gosh, it felt like she was speaking to me because I'm like, and I say it in the book, I'm like, this book is not about telling you how to get a man. I'm not that person. You know what I mean? I'm not that person that'll sit there and say, oh yeah, you're going to get your Russell and this and that and the other's going on. That's not me. But just the importance of doing that work for yourself to improve your quality of life, to make sure that you are, like I said, balance. I was speaking before about being in that precarious situation of constantly being bombarded with all these judgments and attacks. And mind you, it's worse because they're not clear. You know what I mean? Like if you see a spear or an arrow or a bullet or something coming at you, even though it might be hard to get out of the way, in a way you still have a bit of a preparation to brace yourself for the impact. A lot of this stuff that you're dealing with is under the surface. It's passive aggressive, or it's just kind of woven into the fabric of society and everyday life and everyday survival. So you feel it, but you can't see it. And you can't quite put your finger on it, and you damn sure can't articulate it to anyone to get the help that you need or the validation that you need or the camaraderie that you're looking for in order, because sometimes all you need is just that, I see you, I'm with you, I know. Sometimes that's all you need to be able to go, okay, it's not just me, and you can go on, and that gives you a bit of a little bit more strength to go on. But being in that space where you just have to do the work because it's what you need to do, because you're never going to be happy or at peace until you do that work. I would have, for the longest time, I didn't realize I could sense like this. I don't know if any of you ever saw what's that called? Suicide Squad, the first one. And when the witch took over that girl's body and she was just kind of moving, and she would be here and she would be there, and I had this anger that kind of lived in me that was like that, and it would flight. It was like a puff of smoke. It would be here, and then I'd look over there, but it would disappear, and it's over here. Like it was just so primal, and I didn't know what to do with that, and I didn't know, how to deal with it. And for a long time, I didn't even know it was there, because you're feeling these things, but you're just like, oh no, this is just regular life. Or I should have known better. I should have done better. Or, oh, I brought it on myself. This is a part of being a mom. You know what I mean? You're telling yourself that this stuff doesn't matter. How you feel doesn't matter. How you feel is inconsequential. But like I read before, it's coming out. in other ways, and in other ways you may not want to. It's coming out towards your children. It's coming out when you're at your job, and it's coming out with you just kind of deciding, oh, well, I'm just going to go for this because I don't have enough energy to fight that fight, or I don't have enough energy left to be vulnerable enough to be willing to be disappointed by reaching just a little bit higher for something that I really, really want. I'll just deal with what a bird in the hand. You know what I mean? So you're dealing with guys. You know it's dead in relationships, or you're just dealing with guys that you know it's nothing but a situationship, or you're just dealing with guys that you know are horrible people that you don't really like, but you're just like, oh, well, mama gotta have a life too, so you're just settling for having sex on the weekends when your kids are going. You know what I mean? Like, you're not really living, you're living like a half life. You're not living a full life because you have all this other stuff that is clogging up your energy and suppressing your energy, and you're not radiating and living authentically and attracting what you authentically want and deserve. And you know what I mean? So it's really, really important to do that work just for the sake of not being suppressed, of being authentic, of living the best quality of life. Because, and then that idea, that's what when Mango Mama was talking to me about looking for that space like this, and I couldn't find it. I was looking for a space where, okay, yeah, I want to get there, but how do I stop feeling like trash in general? You know what I mean? And they're talking about, oh no, you got to be this feminine Barbie doll, goddess that men are going to just want to take and put in their pocket and love and everything. And it's like, okay, but you got to lose weight first, and you got to let them discipline your kids, and you got like all this stuff that just didn't hit right with me. Is just like, no, that's not what I'm going for. Or being in a space where they may be saying some things that you can get with, and giving some constructive criticism that you are willing to take in, but then they hit you with that thing that lets you know that they're looking down on somebody like you. You know what I mean? It's not quite right. It's like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. You know what I mean? This is too hot. This is too cold. This is too hard. This is too soft. Whatever it is, having to find that balance that's right for you. And so that's why I'm so glad now I built the space that I needed when I was coming up, because I had to feel my way through. And I say all the time about all different types of things. Most of us are trying to do something that we may not have ever seen anybody do. We may not have ever had contact to put our hands on someone, to call them up and say, how did you do this? We are feeling our way forward to and through situations that we have absolutely no kind of reference for. And so we should all be really, really proud that A, we made it this far, that B, we're not where we were before, and that C, that we've been able to find each other and create the community that we needed. And my hope and prayer for this community is that it helps us, because what did I say? I said, many of us will, I don't want to talk about that point. We've got to do better because we have more of an opportunity than ever to learn better. Maybe our parents didn't teach us. Maybe our community didn't care for us to know. But it's our duty to learn and do better for our children's sake. And this book is meant to end any and all deniability of culpability and alternatives, and usher in the beginning of a golden age for us all. That's my intention with this book. That's my intention with this platform, is to heal the community. And the only way the community is going to heal through our children, because like these relationships ain't it. They're not going to give up. And by they, I mean, the men are not going to give up on this idea that they are owed something from us, even though they're constantly coming to us and wanting something from us, even if it's just sex. You know what I mean? They don't recognize that it's constantly this idea that we're supposed to be offering something up or acquiescing something to them. But we got to raise these babies. You know what I mean? So we need to be seeking out these spaces, because in building this platform, there are other spaces similar to, can't nobody be me, baby. Okay? Can't nobody do me. However, there are other spaces. There is an uprising and a new age of women coming from where we come from, coming from this energy of, look, we trying to heal, we trying to do better, we trying to get it together, we're trying to, rally around these babies, you know what I mean? And that's really where we need to be putting the emphasis on. And like I said, I really thought it was interesting. I want to see. Oh yeah, we're going to talk about. Oh, it's a lot of good things still to talk about. I was trying to see if I was going to end it, but I'm not, because it's still other good. She talk about worth versus purpose. She talks about settling. Like, these are all great points. You know what I mean? So let's just go forward. That people really don't want to have. But it's also true. So three things actually I want to unpack there. And I talk about this a lot with my clients. We confuse worth and value, and they are not the same thing. I am worthy as a human being because I am here, because there is no one else like me, and allows me to be in loving relationship with other people. Doesn't have anything to do with how I show up, when I show up, what I bring. It just is. And so we talk about worth, but we're really talking about value. And so when we start thinking about, oh, well, I'm hydrated and I have my passport and I have 2 degrees and I work out and I know how to ride dick and I know how to suck dick and I'm a good woman and I have I'm a good Christian person. Well, that's all value. That's my biggest issue with the Kevin Samuels platform. It's all value. But guess what? Any one of those markers or indicators can be taken away from us in a heartbeat. You need to find someone that is invested in your worth, right? That says, bonnet on, crusty eyes, you lose your job, you can't ride dick anymore after you had the kids, and I still choose you.
Yeah.
That's where we need to start to shift our conversation. So disentangling value from worth. And then the other piece is, there is no guarantee that we're going to ever have our perfect partner. There's a lot of people out there that are partnered and they have settled and they know that, and that's okay with them, but they also decide, I want someone who can meet me where I am. I have an ideal and I want to have that ideal be lived out in my life. It might not happen.
Yeah.
It might not happen, right? And you're still worthy. You still get to live a whole life. You still can have little adventures and affairs and fun situations throughout. We don't have to devalue those things because they haven't led to this ideal that we have in our mind. And this again goes back to this being honest with yourself. I wanted to chime in on that point because I want to say maybe like a month and a half to 2 months ago, I remember distinctly having this thought in my mind, like out of nowhere. I was just like, I want to start being able to walk away from relationships and still be able to treasure the memories. You know what I mean? I was just like, I was thinking back on my life and thinking back on the different relationships, and not just romantic relationships, but mostly romantic relationships. And I was just like, I feel so weighed down by those memories and by the fact that I can't look back to those memories and just go, yeah, that was nice, without it coming with this flood of like other bullshit. And so then I just was like, there's nothing I can do about those particular memories. But I said, I want to be able to walk away from relationships without feeling the need to vilify the person. And like in saying that, I'm not trying to take away from the severity of the things that people have done to me, but I can recognize that by not being clear about what they were doing and where they were coming from with what they were doing, and B, what I wanted, what my boundaries were, you know, what my deal breakers were, what I would not tolerate. It's just like people tend not to realize that a lot of times we'll have people in our lives and we'll just complain, and we are content in that complaining, but we're not realizing that there's no way for us to really have a good and healthy relationship with that person, because there's always a point in time where if you see this person is doing this thing to you and you continue, or these things, and you continue dealing with that person, after a while you're kind of positioning that and you're not voicing, you're not owning, articulating, and voicing your needs, your standards, your boundaries to them. You are positioning them to vilify them, if we're being quite honest. And that's more of a you issue than a them issue. And so what I was saying was that was me, kind of being accountable and saying, okay, well, back in the day, I didn't have the language. I didn't have the understanding of myself or the world at large and the powers that be. But now that I do, I'm taking responsibility on myself to stay clear about what I'm feeling, to clearly, express it and respectfully express it, and to be willing to accept if the person doesn't receive it and put it to use in a way that makes moving forward with that person safe and fruitful. You know what I mean? So no more villains. No more villains in my life. I don't want to have any more villains in my life. I just want to be able, and yes, and we need to add boundaries to the complaining too, and stick to it, to be able to say, you know what, this person does this thing, and we'll say it all the time. He do this all the time. But you keep taking them back, and you keep offering yourself up for them to do it, and you keep telling yourself, oh, well, he said he's going to stop. Yeah, but he said he was going to stop all the other times right before he did it again. You giving them like that Jazzy Brown situation. They're not going to tell you to stop being everything. They're not going to tell you to stop doing for them. They're not going to tell you to stop having sex with them. They're not going to tell you to do what's in your best interest if it doesn't align with their desires of you. And being responsible for yourself and your life experience and taking that on. And that's why I say, like, it's important to hold that space for yourself and seek out other spaces where you can do that work of first being able to put down that armor that you have to wear because people are attacking you. So stop listening to those people that are saying all that stuff. And every time you go to this place, every time you go to this channel, every time you hear this voice, they're going to be saying blah, 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 and that's going to trigger you. And there's nothing constructive that can be done once you're tricked. Stop going there. Unsubscribe. Hit do not. And Deanne had did a video, I think a couple videos back, where she was talking about this. Shout out to Deanne Matthews. She was talking about this saying, like, you have to filter out the things that just aren't bearing good fruit in your life. So if you just keep going to these places and putting yourself in that position where you're going to be upset with no end. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay. You won't be upset sometimes. Sometimes you need a little bit of that to, shake you up. But if you just won't be getting upset and then you're just sitting and stewing in that energy and there's nothing else but you to do except keep complaining about it. Clean up that algorithm, baby. Yeah, like, it's time to move forward. It's time to move past that. And I think I'm going to do a video about the Black women empowerment ecosystem, because every single phase of it is important. I feel like I've been through every single phase of the Black women empowerment ecosystem. And Erica says it all the time. Each one is needed. I went through that angry phase where I just want to talk shit. You know what I mean? I went through that angry phase, and then I went through that phase where I was like, okay, now it's time for me to get really pretty and feminine and you know, and step into my divine femininity and all of that. You know what I mean? She said, yeah, listen, I don't want no trouble, and it's not my intention to start any trouble, but I'm a little bit different. So we'll, you know, whoever want to come over here, we can talk. You know what I mean? But I'm talking about in terms of I'm talking about in terms of just informationally, because again, for me, I'm all about speaking on the experience of how you feel. Women are touted as being more intuitive than men. And it is that intuition, that receptiveness to all these different abstract concepts and energy and knowing and all of that stuff, but not really being able to pinpoint it and speak it and you know, make it make sense. It's pictures, it's vibes, it's flashes of this, it's smells, it's taste, it's touch, it's sensation. But it's hard. Like I said, when you are constantly trying to, she said, I know not being messy. When you're constantly trying to survive and get through the regular day to day, but also the processing of all this different insight that you're getting constantly. That's why I'm always big on walking through the experience of, okay, you're coming into the Black woman empowerment because you're seeking empowerment as a single mother, as a Black, fat, brown skinned, non-ambiguous single mother. I was looking for empowerment. I was looking for, you know, someone speaking my voice out of their mouth. You know what I mean? And being able to navigate around and go, okay, you were there for a reason and it's okay. And like I said, walking away and not feeling vilified and not being so immersed in it and then getting disgusted with it, and now you're too good for it, and now you're, you know, that's your enemy when that was your tribe. You get what I'm saying? Being able to go, okay, I bless that space that I'm leaving now. I'm moving on to the next phase with peace, with acceptance, with gratitude, and being able to live, like I said, that abundant, authentic energy and sit in that and stew in that and reap the benefit of that, as opposed to we see so much of this stagnant energy because it's just hopping from one space to another, carrying the same negativity. You know what I mean? What did Prince Petty say? He said, being alone versus settling for a below average relationship. Most people would try to shame you into accepting mediocrity. They always do. And another thing I'm learning is not to take it personally, because yes, there is a unique experience to the single mother and to, like I said, the Black non-ambiguous single mother and to the Black non-ambiguous overweight single mother and everything like that. But when I look at how they're, because, you know, like I said, she's talking about relationships in general, and it's still hitting the same. You know what I mean? It got a little bit extra spice on it, but it's still hitting the same. Yes, and don't forget to hit that do not recommend button. That's what I've been doing that so much more lately, because I'll see the stuff and I'll be like, yeah, no, I don't feel like it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, I'm doing other things. I'm focused on other things, especially now. Like, I'm pouring so much of myself into try to build this community and set it. Oh, by the way, because I'm not shy to say that I am trying to monetize. The link to the book is in the description. The link to the book is in the description. I also have a link. I mentioned the Birth Your Bag bundle for those who are trying to like move up a little bit if you're at minimum wage and stuff like that, and you're just trying to get to that first step of the next level or whatever. I got that going on. But yeah, so that is in the description here. I just wanted to let you guys know that, and everything I'm talking about is in this book here. It's called Level Up, The Single Mother's Guide to Reclaiming Her Dignity. It is available on Amazon, and the link is in the description. But yeah, let's get back into this video.
yourself, right? What do I really want? And is it worth me? If I don't want it enough, am I going to compromise for it? Yeah, I don't know.
But Dr. Nikki, I am already anticipating there's going to be people anticipating there's going to be people who say, how dare you tell Black women that they might not find the love of their life? Like, we already have so much negativity thrown at us. We're already trudging through so much shit. How dare you take away that dream?
I'm not taking away the dream, right? So continue to stay focused on it, continue to put it out there and manifest it, live in that energy. And also know that there's a lot of sort of tangible factors that might not end you up where you want to be, right? Proximity, attraction, timing, all the things, right? Like, how many times have you, I'm sure when I say this, you have had this happen at least once, where you meet someone and it feels like, oh my God, really need to be to make it happen, or they're not where they really need to be to really like cinch that, make it happen. Close calls, but it doesn't happen, right? So I just want to be honest with folks that one, it might not happen, and two, even if it doesn't happen, that doesn't take away your whole life, right? Like, that's a really patriarchal framework, that if I don't end up partnered, then somehow all the other stuff that I've done is less than.
Yeah. Okay, so now I have to ask, is settling always bad?
Okay, so this one I know I'm gonna get in trouble for. I live in a space where you do you if you're making it from an intentional and empowered position. So what settling looks like for me might be very different than settling looks like for you, right? I know good and well that I'm not interested in having less than, because I know good and well that I am good on my own. But for some people, taking the best of what they can get feels like a win to them. If you are taking the best of what you think you can get, and you're going to be resentful, you're going to feel less than, you're going to consistently be looking outward for something better or the next thing, then don't settle. Some people are easier making compromise than others, right? I'm not. So just be honest with yourself, one way or the other.
That was really important to me because it spoke to, like I said, the experience of feeling like, okay, I got this baby now, so now I can't have insert whatever here, so I'm gonna throw my full weight behind whatever. And like I said, in a lot of situations, I see in, like, it may come from slightly different angles, but it's that man, that particular man, you know what I mean? That particular man is like, okay, I'm this ruined woman. And so in order for me to have the best life possible this lifetime, we got to get married. I got to get validated. You know what I mean? My kids can't be bastards. I remember distinctly feeling like I would be perfectly okay. Good night, curly hair and I care. Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate you being here. I remember distinctly feeling like I'll be okay if we get divorced, but we got to give it a go. We got to get married. And that was honest. That was my honest to goodness thought about it, because I'm looking at him. Like I said, I would have moments of clarity, and I had certain aspects where I understood certain things. So part of me was just like, I don't feel like this really could make the long run. But just having that understanding that I never even had thought about prior to getting pregnant of, it says something about me if I'm a baby mama as opposed to ex-wife. You know what I mean? But being in that space of trying to get that ring, get that title, get that status, put me in a space of, like I said, being vulnerable, because I'm so laser focused on that. I'm not recognizing, like, yo, sis, he's dogging you out. You know, like, he's really treating you badly. And if you weren't so obsessed with this, you would have been forgot all about this man. You know what I mean? And then, like, that's where it goes back into me talking about making someone a villain. So now I keep positioning him and myself to keep going through this cycle, and I'm getting angrier and angrier and angrier. And I talk about that visceral, primal, angry entity living within my spirit. And I can't quite put my finger on her, but I'm going, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. You know what I mean? And having those outbursts, and then getting that feedback of, oh, you're not supposed to have those outbursts. You're not qualified to have those outbursts. You don't deserve to be able to emote. You don't deserve those feelings that you're feeling. You're not a regular acceptable woman. You're a single mother. You know what I mean? And just having all of this stuff go on, when really all I needed to do was kind of just push everything, stop, like Beyonce said, world stop, and just kind of take that time to sit and pick my own brain and pick out, okay, what rings true? Where did this come from? What's going on? All of that stuff. What kind of mother am I showing up as? Am I okay with that? How does that feel for my kids? How does it feel that they feel that way? Just all of these, the important things, the things that need to be prioritized, because you're just operating on scarcity, and you're operating out of obligation, and you're feeling resentment, and you're feeling bitterness, you know what I mean, and anger and ire, and nothing is working, nothing is feeling good. It is, my grandfather used to say, it's a deep school.
I think that this is a really good point. Okay. I also saw you on your TikTok recently talking about the soft life trend that is all over TikTok, all over Instagram, so many YouTube videos about it.
This is my third take trying to do this, and that's because I'm so long-winded. I'm sitting here, see what I'm saying? Life don't want me to be fun. It's bedtime for me. I'm doing my little skincare routine. And I was thinking about this trend that I'm hearing from Black women, particularly in this space, and probably in other spaces, to talk about living their soft life and living in their feminine energy and being intentional about that. I love that. All for it. Yes, let's go. What I don't hear, though, is about the process of doing that. That direction, that goal, that aspiration, that intention, and the reality of the context in which we all live that really work to prevent that pull us into more hardened spaces, into more callous spaces, into more burdened and effortful places. And I want to offer two concepts that I think are really vitally important to be sustainable in your efforts to live a soft life. Because I don't hear people talking about these two things enough. And that is self-compassion and self-forgiveness. For me, they go hand in hand. Because usually we have to work through the reality of our former selves, of our unhealed selves, to move forward in the ways that we want to, with more fluidity, with more grace, with more softness, with more openness, with more expansion. And we also have to practice self-compassion, because all of the systems and powers that be and people in our lives expect us to be hard, expect us to be detached, expect us to carry on, expect us to carry the burdens, expect us to be superhuman. And just because we make changes for ourselves internally doesn't mean that the rest of the world is going to respond. I really encourage my clients and myself to lean into self-compassion in our process of living our softer lives.
Women are pursuing soft life. Don't overexert yourself.
So important, so poignant. What I was just talking about, like, you have to be able to hold that space for yourself to find your way, because it's not natural to you at this point. You know what I mean? And it's not, the environment that you're in is not set up for you to do so. And like I said, it gets so hard because sometimes you will reach for it, but you have that slapping of the hand from the reaction you get, because like she said, just because you're making that decision, and like I said, you're not even consciously making this decision, you are just energetically reaching for it so much, but getting that slap, getting that whatever, it's natural that you're going to feel, you're going to build this crust around you, and then it becomes an armor the longer it goes and the thicker it gets. And it's just so, I love, like I said, as I was watching this, I was just like, all of these things are so relevant. You have to, we look at these examples that we are given, you know what I mean, through media, social media, society, and stuff like that. And that went back to what Mango Mama was saying about not seeing this in the space. We were looking for this in the space because we need to kind of see, how do you do that? You know what I mean? What does that look like? What does it feel like? Everybody wants to give you the end result. Everybody wants to say, hey, you know, I just decided one day I was going to live the soft life, and now I'm Fendi head to toe. I'm traveling every other day. I'm making $1 billion, and I'm going to show you how, you know what I mean? Like, everybody's giving that. Everybody's giving, just be different. Just be a different person. You this person, all right, nobody likes that. Be different, be this. You know what I mean? But nobody can tell you, well, how do I get there from where I am right now? And what does that even feel like? And what does that even mean for me? And you don't think, because you're being told in so many ways that you're not allowed to make those decisions for yourself about what it is you want to be happening in your life, and what you should be experiencing. So how are you, her just giving voice to the idea that it's a process. You know what I mean? Like, making the decision that you want to live a softer life is going to be a process, and it's probably going to get a bit more difficult in that changing, and everybody else, you know, the energy around you kind of having to adjust to that shift in you. You're going to see people fall away. You're going to see people buck up and want to fight you and argue and try to intimidate you back into the space you were in. You're going to notice that everything around you is shifting, and maybe even the table gets flipped. But understanding that that is a part of the process, because I know for certain there were so many times when I would start and I would go, and I would get that resistance, and I would get that lashing out from people that are used to me being a certain way, or just that resistance to what it was I was trying to do, and I would just shrink. I would just shrink back into the status quo, because I don't know where I'm going to. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what I'm reaching for. I'm just kind of trying to feel my way to it. And this reaction that I'm getting is so much more visceral and real and intense than this faint whisper that I'm reaching for, you know, like Moana, you know what I mean? I don't know why, but it's calling me, and I got the whole village singing to me about why I need to just stay here. You know what I mean? It's giving George and opposites on Seinfeld. Yep. It's a process, and you have to be ready to lose things and people and give yourself grace to fail often. And like I said, when you're in that position where you feel like you have so little already, that's hard. That's hard. you know? She said, okay, then hit your Paris Milan voice. I don't even know what that means. But why the yeah, yes. Don't get me to start singing.
Take care of yourself, wellness, retreats, all of that.
Yes.
And I thought that you brought a really great perspective that is often missing, which is the structural piece. So, would you talk a little bit more about how, of course, soft life, but there's more to it?
Yes. So, yes, I love that Black women are sort of collectively turning this corner, right? That we're like, I never asked to be a strong Black woman. I did not sign up for that. Take my name off the list. And we still live in systems on the micro level, right? Even in our own families and communities. And surely on the macro level with the world of work and where we live and operate, how we economically make our money, how we move through the world social politically, right? That don't give a damn about our softness. That actually is able to exist and be sustained through the experience of our toughness, of our hardness. And so I can make the internal decision, but that doesn't mean that the rest of the world is like, oh, okay, Black women not doing that no more. Got it. So I think what we need to be doing more is talking about the tension in between the two things. And that's from the external in, but also from the internal out, right? Like the reason why we can come to the decision to want to live in a soft life is because we recognize that we have been living in this toughness, in this strength. And that doesn't change overnight, right? And so this is why I was talking so much on the TikTok about self-compassion. And I think I'm going to do a whole series about self-compassion because we are hardest on ourselves. So my practice is exclusively Black women and Black men and Black couples. And Black women are so hard on ourselves, so much so that even when I start talking about self-compassion, they're like, oh, that sounds good. I like it. And then I'll hear them say something really critical, like 40 seconds later. And I'll say, could we reframe it to look like this? And it's like, oh, I never even considered, I didn't even consider that, right? So soft life, yes. And we have to engage and then communicating those boundaries differently out to the world. And that's going to take energy and intentionality. It's just not going to happen overnight.
Yeah. This is bringing up a question that I've had for so long. And since you're an expert, I'll just throw it out there. When you talked about Black women being so self-critical, so hard on ourselves, like that so resonates for me. It's so interesting that I know so many Black women who in my mind are killing it. Like maybe not perfect, but like not solid 9 out of 10, you know, but they're still so dedicated to, okay, but how can I get to the 10 and what do I need to do? And I'm like, okay, girl, let's just, but I'm interested in how that mentality connects to people being drawn to figures like a Kevin Samuels, like to figures like even before Kevin Samuels, like the Steve Harveys of the world, like all of the I won't call them charlatans, but the men who give out relationship advice.
All the relationship advice about what women need to do to shift to be more attractive and never anything about themselves. That category of people.
Right. And is it that like I'm not good enough? Is that the draw?
So I think so this is where I think the patriarchy and the internalized patriarchy shows up, right? It taps into this value thing. So the women that you're talking about, I know these women, I am one of those women, right? We're all working through some version of evolution about that for ourselves. And it's because we have been rewarded so much on the micro level with our families, our friends, and the overall social structure on the macro level to earn, to win, to succeed, to elevate, to promote. It's what we have been taught to do. And so we get really comfortable, really conversant, and it starts to really shift our world. And that's the biggest thing about the difference between strong Black woman and the soft life. It's taking all of that external markers and saying like, No, I'm going to do what feels good for me. But we haven't really had the opportunity to develop an understanding in ourselves about what feels good, because we've been checking the boxes off, right? And so it's fine. I was trying not to interrupt, but it's fine that it was a commercial, because yes, all of that, everything she said, not being in a position or mind frame of even being capable of saying what feels right. And I would want to pose that as a single mother, that's even more of a problem, because you have that added component of, I know for me it was a feeling like I had to compensate for where I had failed as a woman, or a young lady. And then the added pressure that I had based off of my own personal experience as a child, and not wanting to recreate that. So trying to figure out, not having seen what it is I'm feeling my way towards, but saying, okay, I know I don't want to be that, and I know I don't want to be that. Like she was talking about before, having all of these ideas about what you don't want, or all these red flags, but what are the green flags? What are you going for? What you don't even know what you're going for. All you have at a lot of points is, okay, I know I don't want this. And for a long time, that's really all that I was operating on. I know I don't want this. No, I don't want that. No, I don't want this. No, I don't want that. But that's all I had, because I'm not seeing what I want. Or I may be seeing what I want, but I'm not registering it as something I can have. All of these things. And and we are the same in that it's happening from those who are operating at a really high level, those who haven't made the same mistakes that maybe someone like me has made, those who are doing everything they're supposed to do, that have gone to school, gotten their education, fit, just living the life, but still having that experience of, I don't know what feels good to me. You get what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what it feels good to me. I haven't even had the opportunity at any point in my life to really figure that out. And these are women at their big age. She's saying she's experiencing it and unpacking it now at her age. I'm more than halfway to 40. Well, out of my 30s, I'm 36. I'll be 37 this year. So just getting to that space within the last couple of years or so, where I'm comfortable enough to say, I'm not happy. I want to be happy. I deserve to be happy. I'm going to be happy. This is what, having to go down that whole path just to get there, and then start the work of actually making it happen. You know what I mean? The box to check is to be partnered, is to be married, is to be chosen. We don't want to talk about that out loud. That's the thing about the pick-me's. Pick-me's will let you know. How do I need to put my hair this way, this way? Just tell me what I need to do, right? I'll do it. But a lot of us are doing that internally, just a little bit softer, a little bit quiet, but we really are doing the same thing.
I have coined my classic phrase is feminist in the streets, pick me in the sheets.
I love it. Dynamic that there's a finite amount of good men, and there's a competition for them. And because we as Black women have set the bar so high, then there's freedom towards perfection. And so being hard on ourselves, being critical about ourselves, not ever settling in the 9 out of the 10, focusing on the areas where you are an 8. That is the mechanisms I think we use to help us get that final piece of the product. If I could just do this, if I could just do that.
Yeah. You are also a sex therapist. And I feel like the last like big thing that like we're trying to break down.
All right, so yeah, that was pretty much where I was done with it for this live stream. Like I said, please go watch it. It's amazing. In fact, let me get I'm gonna get the link so you guys can watch it. Please tell her I sent you because I don't want her coming after me like I'm using her stuff for content. But yeah, she started talking more so about like sex center stuff because I believe that lady is a sex therapist. Erica said, I realized I wasn't calling in what I wanted because I only knew what I didn't want and I got what I didn't want, but also realizing I didn't want any of it. Yeah, I was just talking about that. Like, how are you supposed to be able? And it makes me, that's where I get triggered at watching that other kind of content because they always want to talk about, oh, it's your fault for calling it in. And it's like, yes, I'm at a point now in my spiritual journey where I do recognize that I am calling it in. But you're not going to sit here and play in my face and act like there's not a whole, systemic issue of why I'm calling it in and how it got implanted in me and why I'm attuned to that and nothing, why I don't know any better, why I don't have any other reference to be able to successfully call in what I actually want. You don't want to talk about that. And it's like, again, most of us are still in that haze of not even having awareness that it can be different. I'm not even having awareness that it doesn't have to be this way because we're caught up in, oh, well, it is my fault. Because we do want to be accountable. At the end of the day, we want to be accountable and we want to be good mothers and we want to be good citizens and we want to be good parts of our community and we want to try to make amends and we want to try to, build ourselves back up and we want to redeem ourselves. Redemption was a big thing for me, of just trying to redeem myself from how far I had fallen. You get what I'm saying? So we want all good things and not just for ourselves, but we don't have anybody around that has, good intentions or fully good intentions of helping us to find it without taking something for themselves. And then not even just money, the preachers is coming after us. The men on the corner is trying to exploit us. Everybody wants something, vagina, from us. You get what or our babies, Lord help us. You know what I mean? So being in that situation where you got this target on your back or on your forehead that you didn't know was there and you didn't know was going to be put there. And now you're living with it and navigating it. And like I said, it's kind of like, I don't know if any of you guys like to watch Westworld, but I do, where you're in, it's like being in Westworld. It's like being one of the hosts, one of the robots, whereas you just keep having all this stuff happen to you, but then it kind of gets wiped away, or the severity of it gets wiped away, and you find yourself just walking right back into it like nothing ever happened, but you still have that trauma. So you're skitzing out every now and then. You know what I mean? Let's see. Tiff says, I'm so tired of folks screaming accountability. Personal accountability is good, but society and the culture should be accountable too. Absolutely. It says people don't want to be responsible for being better themselves. They want you to accept their bad behavior. Yep. Erica says, yes, first session in therapy, my therapist said, forgive yourself. And how? How do you forgive yourself? You know what I mean? And I would pose that because there was a long time where I was being accountable. That's why I get so mad when they're talking about, oh, you're not accountable. I've been accountable in the way that they want you to be accountable. And that's where all the fuckery happens, because you're not being kind to yourself and you're not being compassionate to yourself, and you can't, give yourself that room to make mistakes. And so you're being really hard and you're being really rigid. And so that's what makes you kind of want to ignore certain things so that you could just keep going, and you're just moving and moving and moving and doing all this stuff. And that's where they want you to be at, because that's when they can come in, do their little fuck shit to you, then put it back on you. Or you should have chosen wrong. You should have chosen better, as they're zipping their pants up and leaving out the door. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy making business is what it is. But the ironic part is that they're still the ones killing us more than we are killing them. That just occurred to me. I'm sorry. It just came, you know what I mean? Like, it's enough to make you crazy. But yet, amidst all of that, they still have the gall to bring it into their mind that they should kill, and then have someone like, listen, let me not even talk about that man. But like, I'm just thinking about when that nurse guy had killed those women, and they were saying, oh, well, they brought it on themselves, and it was totally justifiable. So it's not justifiable for a single mother of, multiple kids that been with this man and been trying to build this man up and everything like that. What if she went and just shot him in the head or something? You know what I mean? Like, it would be pandemonium. Erica says, healing the childhood wounds that really helped create the lens of how I showed up in relationships. I had to learn how to reparent myself and allow to share. Absolutely. Like, reparenting myself I love the way now my internal voice is that of a mother. I am internally asking myself, what's up, baby? What's going on, baby? What's that? What are you feeling? Let it out. Like, that is my internal voice now. Whereas before it was like, nobody's coming to save you. Oh, well, you should have did this. You should have did that. It's completely different. Hi, Kama says, meditation, writing letters to myself, and when I'm being hard on myself, I stop and find a positive word, or I reflect on it to do better for the next time. Absolutely. Prince Petty, you should have chosen better, as they zip up their pants and walk out the door. Top tier, you're responsible for my degeneracy. Yeah, like, it's just, I wish I had a machete sometimes. Like, you ever saw a picture of that woman? I don't know if it was Haiti. It was it wasn't America, but it was like Haiti or somewhere, and she's standing there with the machete, and she's just looking at him like, take one more step. Like, that's how I be feeling with these dudes. I'm tired of their bullshit. But I'm going to share the link one last time, see if anybody wants to come up, because that is pretty much it. Like I said, please go over to the For Harriet's channel and watch the whole thing uninterrupted, like I was able to do. If you want to see the whole thing, and she does have some information about sex and getting yours in the sexual arena. But yeah, other than that, like I said, the book, both the link for the paperback version and the link for the ebook version is in my description. And there was another link there. Oh, the birth year bag. Please go back into my catalog. You can see the birth year bag playlist. You can see the Refine and Shine playlist. Like I said, these lives, when we're talking about emotional things and self-esteem and stuff like that, are more so geared towards build your boundaries. But there's also a video where I explain exactly what the Level Up Single Mom platform is supposed to be, what my vision is for it, and how, I'm going to move forward with it. But I don't see anyone coming up. So with that, I will release you guys back into the ether. I'm so grateful. Shout out to Erica, Tiff, Tori, True, Nia, Spark, Petty, Themis, Hi, Comma. I'm sorry if I'm shortening you guys' name and you don't want it. Who else was here? I'm seeing all the same names. Curly Hair. Carla, thank you so much for speaking about my book. Invincible. Who else was here? I think I got everybody. Thank you so much for coming, and I will see you guys next Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Woman Chat Wednesday. I think eventually I may expand to like other days too, but for right now, I'm just trying to stay steady because I have a problem. Like I can get knocked off of a routine really quick, and even like when I was watching some other stuff, and then like some of my older lives came on, I was just like, yo, I've been doing them dirty. I ain't even getting dressed anymore. I'm not even really doing my hair. I was putting the little Bessie bun up there, and then I didn't even come on camera last week. I was like, I gotta be better than this. I'm gonna treat y'all better. When it gets cooler, I think I'll go back to, I used to do, and on my Instagram page, like I have my lives from when I used to just be on Instagram and I would do a full beat. You know what I mean? So I'm going to cross my fingers that I'll get back to do it. It's just too hot. It's too hot. I can't do it. But you guys have a great night. I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Please like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you next week. What is going on?